we want to advance liberty, we have to do more than simply sort of think we can play a Constitution card as a trump and say, hey, it's not in the Constitution, or something is in the Constitution, and that's the end of the argument. We know it's not the end of the argument. The argument's been going on since 1787, and it doesn't win the argument. And no matter how many times we say, well, where's the power for the Congress or for the federal government to regulate or to revamp the financial industry or to take over medical care, you can just play the general welfare clause. And what do you say in response to that? I mean, you can say, well, that's not what they meant, but that's not a very powerful comeback. We need to promote liberty directly to people. So if you promote liberty and the rules of just conduct to people directly, they will then demand a tighter interpretation of the Constitution. The Constitution, there's no way to get away from a living Constitution. Okay? All constitutions are alive. And Thomas Sowell likes to say a living Constitution is a dead Constitution, but that's the only kind there is, whether we like it or not. It's going to be ultimately interpreted by the ideology, the implicit ideology that's in the hearts and minds of the people, the bulk of the people. I have a column, an article on the Fee site called "The Constitution Within." That's where the real Constitution is, or another one, similar one, called "Where is the Constitution?" It's not hanging in the National Archives. It's here. It's here. And if enough people demand their liberty and are jealous of their liberty, which is Jefferson's word about the proper attitude toward government, not confidence, jealousy, then the Constitution will follow, and the politicians and the judges will eventually follow. And we'll get a Constitution that is strictly, it may be creative, but still strictly construed, rather than broadly construed. So that's, my first lesson. Constitutions and all laws have to be interpreted by people. In a strict sense, there's no such thing as the rule of law. I know this is sort of heretical, but when you think about it, laws don't speak, parchments don't speak. We can't program a computer with the correct interpretation or the text and then have it spit out every time we have an argument, say, computer, great computer, tell us what is the right answer under the Constitution, and then it unfailingly tells us what to do. Be nice, maybe, but who's going to program the computer? And how do we know his interpretation isn't right? And how do we know when the programmer comes in to, make it 3.0, doesn't have a new interpretation? It's always people. It's always people. I recommend, you can find this online, a very good paper by John Hastness, who's a very good legal scholar, who wrote a book called a paper called "The Myth of the Rule of Law." I suggest you look it up on the internet. It's very, very well worth reading. Okay, dispersed power has long been a pillar of liberalism. And of course, you know what I mean by liberalism, the original meaning of that word. Decentralization entails smaller jurisdictions, competition, and easier exit, right? It's cheaper to vote with your feet if you're in a small jurisdiction. It's easier to leave your town or your county or even your state than it is to leave the country if the country becomes oppressive. And that of course, sets in motion some competition to keep, at least to some extent, keep the burdens from being too great. Because if you can easily leave, then, of course, you're taking your revenue with you, and the politicians don't like that. So you want competition, and that means you're going to have smaller competing jurisdictions. The Articles of Confederation, though hardly perfect, embraced those principles. The plan that took its place exchanged those principles for the promise of checks and balances within a strong central government. It's fascinating to ponder how things would have turned out had that exchange not taken place. Thank you.